think so. Oh, you can tell now.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Let's see here.
Things are getting better and better on the
Okay.
up and up. My brother.
What's up, brother?
That's so.
Happy
That's
Monday
good.
again.
That was a loud clap, so I apologize if that was all up in your ear, y'all. But as y'all can see, we're in a slightly new setup.
Yeah.
Right, same location. We're just a few feet away from the infamous couch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right, so we went from couch talk to
Now
more
table talk.
intimate. Yeah,
Yeah,
table. Yeah,
yeah,
table
table
talk.
talk, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I was just sharing with John that I think the table kind of provides this symbolism to that of being a space where culturally a lot of us get together to break bread and also to just check in, ask how our days went, catch up. Even the cheese man happens at the tables a
A
lot
lot
of
of
the
cheese, man.
time, So I think a table is very representative of a place where you not only feed just your body, but also your mind and your soul through the conversations and interactions that you're having with whoever it is that you're having the honor to share that space with. And so very thankful to be sharing it with you today, brother.
I know, man. That's super
Yeah.
dope. Yeah, I never really thought of it that way. Like you feed yourself here physically, you nourish yourself here physically, but
Mm-hmm.
then also it is a place where you come and co-live and share all
Mm-hmm.
that went on in your day.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the back we have the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
and I know for like my family, the kitchen was like the hub,
Yes.
right? Like the
Yeah.
nexus of information where everything came about. Like you said, the cheese mess, and then also like there were a lot of important conversations,
Yep.
if not the most
Important
important conversations
conversations.
held in the
Yeah.
kitchen or in the dining room. So yeah, so kind of we had talked about moving to this tabletop,
Mm-hmm.
but this is the first time I think that I've heard it from you in your perspective and how you actually the intention
Yeah.
behind it because you actually wanted to do it on top of the
Yeah. Yeah.
tabletop,
The
not on top of the
table.
tabletop, but
Yeah. No, for sure.
yeah,
I think the couch provides also a very dope symbol of that being a comforting place, right? The cushions and the backrest, right?
yeah,
It's all soft and it can allow for um, this feeling of safety that then can transcend to vulnerability and
hmm,
openness, right? Because the couch is where you can also sleep and rest,
yeah,
right? On those long days where you just can't even get
can't
up to
make it
make
to
it to
the
the bed,
mm-hmm,
right? So
mm-hmm.
the couch, I know for me, especially with the twins, has been a lifesaver as during the transition of becoming a single dad, I wanted to be as close as I possibly could to their room in case they cried, in case they moved, in case they were needing some water in the middle of the night. So I made it a point to sleep in the couch probably for the first like 2 months to be able to be there in a split second the moment that I knew they
Yeah.
needed something, right? So the couch is a very beautiful and special place as well. But
Hmm.
as you said, we wanted to try something a little different. And so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah. And if you guys like it, let us know. If you guys
Yeah.
want us back on the couch, let us know.
Mhm.
I think we'll be bouncing back and forth. It just depends on how we feel that day, maybe. I don't know.
Mhm.
But you spoke about transitioning, right?
Mhm.
From the couch to your bed, maybe not making it there, but you just recently made a pretty big transition.
Yeah.
You went from being a young tadpole to now a full grown Thundercat.
Yeah. 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 For sure. It's funny. I just turned 34 as of yesterday, April 28th.
Yeah.
But I had an amazing opportunity to share space with such wonderful community on Saturday at the
Mm.
Plank in Jack London. If you haven't checked that out, since I've come to learn a lot of people have never been there, including you, who
Yeah.
I feel like surprised me probably the most because I know that you have such amazing friends who are adventurous and who like to be in social settings in different stages of life, right? And so I was just surprised that you had never been there. But nonetheless, it's a
Hmm.
really awesome place. There's a outdoor patio in the front. You don't need any reserved seating. I mean, shoot, you don't even really
Okay.
need to eat there. You could just go there and hang out, people watch, enjoy the sun. But then they do have an indoor area, which you also saw, where there's bowling, there's an arcade area, there's a
Yeah.
bar. And then you could also eat there too. They got some great food, they got some great drinks. And so for my birthday this year, I think I wanted to honor myself and reward myself by being in a shared space with the people who have really contributed to my life positively in the last year and a half, in which I've been navigating a lot of different changes, which I just mentioned a little bit ago, included becoming a single father, right? Due to the separation between me and the mother of my twins, who is an amazing mother, right? But we found that it was in our best interest to go our separate ways for ourselves individually and also for the healthy environment that we'd want to provide for our daughters. Two healthy homes is better than one dysfunctional home, right?
Absolutely.
And
Hmm.
so to bring it back, the plank was amazing. I think we had maybe like anywhere from 15 to 20 people there all together at
Yeah.
once. Like we like monopolized this one space in the outdoor patio. It was sick,
It
man.
was a good time
Yeah.
and a beautiful, beautiful day to have just an outdoor celebration.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got to meet a lot of his folks that I hadn't met just yet in
Yeah.
person because I felt like I knew all these people. And it's funny because I was walking and introducing myself to everybody. Everyone was like, "Yeah, man, I know you. I know you from here, and I know you from
Yeah.
there." So they've seen me, just like through the podcast and
Yeah.
then through just social media and stuff like that. But it was great to just meet them finally. And shout out to your LBs.
Yeah.
Shout out to Alvaro who
Yeah.
came out. You had some people out there from college,
Yeah.
and then shout out to the nephews that came out and the
Yeah.
little cousins
Yeah.
Dion and Ronnie and
And your
David
sister,
and my
Erica. It was
sister.
awesome for her to be there. Shout out to mom.
Yeah,
Shout out to my brother Andrew, who is a top of the line gamer
yes,
and
he is.
rarely goes out
Yeah,
for any reason. So I don't take it personal when he doesn't go out for things that I invite him to. But for him to be there for my birthday was really meaningful. And so, yeah, I honestly, a few people asked me, how do you think it went? And bro, I was like, this was better than I could have imagined.
yeah,
And there were some folks that weren't able to make it and just know you were missed. And there were some folks that I didn't invite, and so I apologize for that. It wasn't intentional. I was trying to get this together pretty quickly. I think I
true.
made the decision of wanting to do something maybe like a week and a half before my birthday, and so there was a
Yeah,
lot of folks that I may have unintentionally forgotten about. But just know that you were there in spirit. Just know that you have contributed a lot to who I am too, and so just thank you for helping me welcome 34, which
34.
is a blessing.
It is. It's a good year,
Yeah, it
a good
definitely is
age.
something I'm very thankful for.
Yeah, yeah, and just to back up your statement right now, I got an invite a few days before. He
Mm-hmm.
was like, "If you can make it, you can make it. If
Mm-hmm.
you can't, I understand."
Yeah.
So it was definitely last minute, but that was a bit of a slight check in,
Yeah.
right? So I was kind of talking about what we did kind of over the weekend, but how have you been feeling lately?
Yeah.
How have you been
Yeah.
doing?
Things have been good. I think I know I'm in a good place where my mind is able to calm itself down and I'm not thinking about too many things,
Mm,
but it's because I'm doing things,
okay.
right? So I'm not overwhelming myself with what do I need to be doing? I'm doing it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So one thing about me, and I feel like it started to make more sense as I got older, is that my mind's always going, man. I'm
Yeah.
always thinking about like, all right, what could I be eating? What could I be doing? What am I gonna wear? Who might I see today? What
Mm,
conversations might I have? So when I get to a place where my mind can reach like even a little bit of silence, I'm
yes.
just like, yeah, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like when I'm going to sleep, so I'll give you an example. Last night when I was going to sleep, I had nothing on my mind. And
Oh
that felt
man,
so peaceful. Because that is so hard to
I'm envious.
experience, right?
Yeah, I'm envious, man.
Yeah, I just knocked out, man, after a really beautiful weekend of, like you said, being out in the sun, being around just loved ones. And I'm good. I'm good mentally. I'm good emotionally. My daughters went to a quinceañera and their mom was sending me pictures.
Nice.
And they just look so beautiful. I'm just going to be honest. I'm obsessed with my daughters, y'all. And I'll say
As
that
you should be, man.
unapologetically, man.
Yeah.
They even through pictures bring me so much happiness and joy. And it just makes me miss them and excited for the next time I'll see them. But I'm good. My mom is in good spirits, good health. I think a big part of me is when I do talk about myself, although I'm trying to get better at centering it around myself, I will naturally also take into consideration my loved ones, right?
Yeah.
Grandma's in good health and good spirits. Mom is in good health and good spirits. My job is in a good place. I have an amazing supervisor. Shout out to you, Martine, for being the best supervisor I've ever had. I have amazing colleagues. One of them you may have met, Will, who showed up to my
Yes.
birthday and who
Yeah.
is an extraordinary man. And then the list can go on and on. And this past Friday, we actually just had our EOP end of the year graduation ceremony. And so shout out to
Okay.
Kumar and Carmen, who are the brains and the masterminds behind putting everything together.
Mm-hmm.
The end of the year celebration is an opportunity for us to honor and acknowledge the hard work of our graduating seniors. We invite their families. They had an opportunity to bring up to 20 family members. We had a
Okay.
DJ. We did it in the CSU East Bay Gymnasium where the basketball games take place. It was awesome, man. And a part of our graduation is our students actually being able to select a family member, a friend, a loved one, a husband, a wife, whatever it may be, a mentor who can drape them with this medallion that we provide. And it's done in the middle of like the whole event. We hire a professional photographer to take a picture. You see tears, you see hugs, you see the biggest of smiles.
Good stuff.
And as I told the students, right, as the director of our education opportunity program, I told them that I know a lot of them are in this very moment, that Friday, thinking about what's next, grad
Yeah.
school, job, where am I going to live? And I said, and all of that is very valid to be thinking about. And I was like, for this moment, let yourself be here. Just let yourself be here in this space, in these chairs with your family, because you deserve that. You deserve to just like let your mind be fully present, because everything that you are even thinking about isn't going to happen
Anytime
today.
soon.
Yeah, right?
Anytime
Isn't going to
soon.
happen today.
Yeah.
Like today is what we have, and you're
Right.
right here, right now. And this is a celebration for you. Don't let your mind already be somewhere else, because then you're not going to fully enjoy this experience. And so that was kind of like one of the key messages I made sure I wanted to share with them
Words of
on that
wisdom.
Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, great words to share,
Yeah.
especially with the big question of what's
Yeah.
next. So hard to answer after accomplishing something so big. It's great to always ask yourself what's next, but
Yeah.
let's just kind of enjoy the moment for a little bit,
Yeah. It's
just for a
kind of
little bit.
like that. Smell the flowers,
Absolutely.
right?
Because next thing you know, you're 34.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It goes by fast. No, it's true, right? I mean, I think one of the bittersweet realities of working in education is that you can't help but remember when you were that age too,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And so there's also the acknowledgement of like, as much as I'm telling them to be present, I know at that age, I too was also wondering what's next. But because of that reason, right, is why I'm telling them to be present. Because naturally, as I was telling them, what you do today and what you do tomorrow is going to be what contributes to that future that you want, right?
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about 5 years from now, but you're not putting in the work that's going to get you to that 5 year goal, then it's going to take you 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And to each their own, and there's nothing wrong with that either. And if you really are ambitious and goal oriented, it's a day by day process, right? You have to make the most out of each day so that you can get a little closer to whatever those goals are tomorrow.
Yeah. One thing that I was just talking to a friend about was making your next decision the right decision, right? And just kind of going off that way.
Yeah.
This friend of mine, we talk on the phone for 3 to 4 hours at a time. It's just that kind of friendship. And it's always fun to kind of get these new tools.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's a shit like learning should be perpetual.
Yeah,
Like it should
for
be.
sure.
You should be always engaging and learning. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Because you're so worried about what's next. It's like,
Yeah.
well, let me just make sure that I'm not getting too far ahead of
Yeah.
myself and just trying to take things day by day, as you say.
Yeah.
But
Because I feel like in taking things day by day, and like you said, if you're making the right decisions or what feels like the right decisions on a day by day basis, you build momentum, right?
yeah,
You build momentum, and
yeah,
then you get to a point where you're like, dang, each day is just like elevating itself more
yeah,
and more and more, and then you're like, damn, how much more like better can I be or better can I feel? Because this is awesome.
yeah. You become a little bit dangerous, and I mean
Yeah,
that. I mean
I
that
mean a
in
good
a
way,
great way. You know,
yeah, you start feeling yourself. You feel me?
man, it's like,
Yeah,
bro, nothing can
yeah,
stop me.
yeah,
Oof,
yeah,
that's a powerful feeling.
yeah,
But I'm happy. I'm happy that you're happy, man. I'm
yeah,
always happy that you're happy.
yeah,
I love the fact that you're taking the time to be present and also
hmm,
just passing that gift along with other
yeah.
people who are coming up. And you are definitely in your bag, as the new people say.
Man, for
Yeah.
sure, it feels that way. It really feels that way, and I think the reason it feels that way is because I know what it feels like when it doesn't feel this way, right? When I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like I'm in my bag, or when I
Mm-hmm.
haven't felt like I was in my bag at maybe different stages of life. Something that has come up pretty organically and I think very powerfully is that of me just having to admit that it was really hard to transition out of my marriage a year ago. I think I was trying to power through it, right? Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times as men, but also especially as men of color, that's just kind of the mentality, right? Like you just keep
Yeah.
pushing, bro. It don't matter how much it hurts.
No
And as
complaining, no
much as
nothing.
we're right, like creating this content, as much as we're having these conversations, it doesn't mean we're not immune to
No.
like still practicing those habits that aren't in our best interest, right? And I've even apologized to my colleagues, those that I am the director or the boss of, right, as they call me the boss, and they say it in an endearing type of way because they know how much I love them. I was like, look, I'm sorry, y'all, because I know that during that time period, I kept saying I was okay and I kept pretending to put on this smile, but that
Yeah.
shit was heavy. That shit was hard. And I think it took me like 8 to 9 months to mourn, to process, and to be in such a more peaceful place for me to realize that I was not in a peaceful place then.
Yeah.
Right. And along the way, I was reading, spiritual books. Shout out Thich Nhat Hanh, who I've shouted out before. May he rest in peace. And shout out to Gilbert, who recently started reading a Thich Nhat Hanh book, and mentioned how it's been like a transformational experience for him too. But I was reading, I was still working out, but I still needed to go through that, which is just time, right? And thankfully, I was doing it the right way because it's now led me to where I am now. But I still needed to go through that time, right? It wasn't going to happen overnight. And so, yeah, man, just change. It's all kind of like connected to this concept of change.
Right. So I was gonna, it's a great segue to our actual theme for the day,
Mm-hmm.
which is embracing new chapters in life.
Yeah.
Right. You mentioned that just recently, at least with a year and a half that you just kind of went through. It's been
Yeah.
kind of a big change, and I think it's important to kind of acknowledge it as different chapters or different times in your life phases, because you kind of have to, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have to put certain things to a close at a
Yeah.
certain point,
Yeah.
right? There's no time frame for it, obviously, right? Because only when you're actually done with something. What I always like to say to people is like, get as much out of that, get as much juice out of that as you possibly can, and then when it's out, then
Yeah.
you kind of have to throw
Yeah.
it out,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then also one thing that I thought about is as well when I last said that was your the tick story that you talked about the flowers,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and how like were they dead? Are they the
Yeah.
same
Are they
flowers or
the
whatever?
same? Uh-huh.
And I always use the fruit in my example, like get the most out of the fruit,
Mm-hmm.
the juice out, get as much juice out of the fruit as you possibly can. But what happens when you throw a fruit into like a dirt or maybe semi-fertile
Mm-hmm.
um, soil? Is
Yeah.
it tends
Yep.
to
It gives back.
it gives back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you added something in my repertoire,
Nice.
now that I use that as often as I do. But embracing new chapters in life, I have a question for you, and we're gonna delve into just childhood and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Once again, but I think it's very important that we do so.
Yeah, I agree.
So y'all can get to know us, and then also maybe pick up something that maybe you went through as well.
Yeah.
So the question is, so tell me how you felt about life when you were younger,
Yeah.
and then how is it different now that you're older, especially now that you turned 34?
Yeah. So due to the fact that I could probably go so many ways with that question, I think I'm going to focus it more on that of turning 34.
Okay.
And something that I shared with you in a voice memo, right, as we were kind of talking about what today would look like and what
Mm-hmm.
content we would create, and something that I actually shared on my TikTok, my personal TikTok, which, and for anybody that wants to follow, I'll make sure to include a link to it, as it tends to be conversations like this or thought perspectives along the lines of what we're doing with our podcast, right, which is
Mm-hmm.
what kind of inspired us to want to dive into this podcast.
Yes.
But I was saying how turning 34 has given me an opportunity to just really reflect and process on this life that I've been so blessed to live, right? Even in the midst of the ups and the downs, even in the midst of the chaoses, even in the midst of the loss, the loves, the heartbreaks, right? All of
Mm,
that, I'm very blessed
yeah.
because there was a time period growing up in the community that we did of Richmond, California. Shout out to your hat. Love that. Is that Andy's Donuts?
Sandy
I believe
Donuts.
that's Andy's Donuts. Shout out
Yes, it
Andy.
is.
I think Andy has like a chicken store now too.
It's
Close by.
expanding.
But to bring it back to what I was trying to share is that growing up in a community like that, which, as we have highlighted in past episodes, was an impoverished community. You had a lot of folks making decisions that were very much survival, desperation type decisions,
No.
right? Which weren't always the most positive for them and weren't always the most positive for the community, the youth, the elders, and anybody who wasn't from the area, right? And this was
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes highlighted in the media by constantly, announcing some type of death that happened in Richmond, some type of robbery that happened in Richmond, some type of crime that happened in Richmond, right? So that was Richmond. And so, because of that, me and my peers, we found ourselves sometimes engaging in conversations where we would say this statement of, man, I pray I make it to 17, 18, or I really hope I make it to 21, bro. And we said it as if though that's not normal to make it to those
Mm-hmm.
ages, right? We shared that with each other as if it is some type of milestone or accomplishment to not turn that age, but to survive to that age, right? Because growing up in a community like that, a lot of us had loved ones, siblings, parents, uncles, friends who did not have that opportunity, right? So just to be able to reflect and look back that there was a once upon a time me just wanting to be 17, 18, and now I'm almost double that age. I'm actually double 17, right?
Mm-hmm.
um, it puts things into perspective, and it makes me just really want to give so much love to all of those young people that we grew up with who had that mentality, and some who actually lost their lives before they reached 17 or 18, right?
Yeah.
And for the families who then had to navigate that, right? And I'm so thankful that I'm here. I'm thankful that I've been able to experience so much, see so much, hear so much, learn so much, love so much, try to give as much as I can, and also receive from many wonderful people that have come into my life, whether it be through blood family like yourself, whether it be through my fraternity, like some of the brothers that were there on Saturday, Mimi, Landon, Cam, Corey, Roy. Shout out to y'all. Thank you for coming out. Um, my mom, my grandma, Polak, right? And the list can go on, right? You mentioned some of the people, Alvaro, Gilbert, um, Heather, who was there, who's a work colleague, Will, right? Like the list can go on and on. So forgive me if I don't name you, but it makes me just that much more thankful to be in a place where I now have, I can say I've met these people and I've had these experiences. I have Lilo, Imelda, like my daughters, right?
Yeah.
If I'm over here thinking I just want to reach 17, I wasn't even thinking about having a family. Not in a real type of
Right. Not
way, right? So
realistically.
to then also have
No.
that, it just again gives me no other choice but to be just very thankful. And yet still want more,
Of
but be
course.
very thankful in
Yeah.
that process of wanting more out of life.
Yeah. When I thought about life when I was younger, it didn't go too far.
Yeah.
Like it didn't go past 10 realistically past 10 years.
Yeah.
You get the question asked often, I think, when you're in your 20s, like, what's your 5-year plan,
Uh-huh.
your 10-year plan. I never got past a year or two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to go back to what you were talking about when you said that, you had those kind of joking conversations like, hey, I wish I could get back. I hope I get to 18,
Yeah.
19, 20. I had a lot of those conversations as well, but there is a lot of conversations had and within my little circle, my clique, that would joke around about getting shot.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
for
like
sure. Mm-hmm.
like I dated Nicole, and she lived in North Richmond
Yep.
with her granny, and I would hang out with like my boys on 19th, and I'd be like, all right, I'm out of here, y'all.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, where you heading out to? I'm like, I'm about to go kick it with Nicole. Like, bro, you about to get shot
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because I'm
Mm-hmm.
going from central to
So
north.
north. Yeah.
Immediately, I had to take my central hat
Yep.
off,
Yep.
and
Mm-hmm.
because you didn't want to run that risk. And I actually one time forgot to take it
Take
off
it
and knew
off.
exactly what that meant.
Yeah.
Stuff gets real really really quick, and your life can change within
In the flash.
blink
Yep.
of an eye.
Yep.
And it could be just as simple as I forgot I even had my
Had.
hat on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's how real my reality was,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
um, being caught in certain situations where you weren't really sure if you were going to end up the one that's shot
Mm-hmm.
because of him, because
Yep.
of her.
Yep.
And you see that a lot now, like on social media and stuff like that. And I'm glad that there's a few videos rotating out there or floating out there about like, be careful who you get involved in
With.
your
Yeah.
issues and your problems. Like everything doesn't have to involve like calling your brother or calling your uncle or calling your
Yeah.
dad, because where we're from, that can mean that person possibly isn't going to make it back or whatever.
Right.
Like you hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
So growing up, for me, life and the way I thought was, 2 years from now.
Yeah.
Simply put, like that simply put, it was 2 years, 3 years from now. Like there
Yeah.
was never a 10-year plan. There wasn't a thought in my mind that I was gonna go for any particular kind of job.
Mhm.
It was just like sort of really vague ideas of what I felt like was successful, but nothing ever too concrete.
Yeah. The
Nothing worth
concrete
for
part.
yeah,
Mhm.
nothing worth me saying like I am really gonna work hard to get this or get that. It was
Yeah.
always very vague, because a lot of people that I knew, man, just end up literally the cliche, right? Dead or in jail.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really that's really what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I think bringing it back to one of my mentors, Polak, he was the one that most contributed to me getting into college. And a part of those conversations that we had was him telling me, Antonio, I've been doing this at the K for 10 years. I don't want to see you become another statistic. Like I've
Yeah.
had the unfortunate reality of having to experience so many young men that look just like you becoming,
Mm-hmm.
right? Heck, in the past, maybe 10 years, right? Which means I'm already in like my mid 20s. I've even come to find out of guys who did make it past 18, 19, but then in their 20s, got caught up in something
Oh
and,
yeah.
and got killed,
Yeah.
Can name a few, but I won't out of just respect for their families. But, one of them, we played baseball together. And so forgive me if the details kind of give his identity a little bit away for those of you that may know him. I'd see him in the gym from time to time. He was, man, like one of those jokesters. When we played baseball, bro, he could, how far the fence was at Kennedy. There really wasn't a fence.
No, it
This man could
was
hit it that far, bro.
yeah.
Fastball though, he couldn't hit off speeds for nothing though.
Oh
But
man,
a
he was one of those.
fastball, if you threw him a fastball, this man could launch it probably 400 feet. I kid you not, in high school, like
Hey,
raw power,
heck
right?
yeah, to make
Um,
it to the gate.
yeah, but of course, due to different life circumstances, he wasn't really able to have that translate to any opportunity. He oftentimes didn't have grades to continue to play. He'd play a few games, show this mass potential, and then didn't have grades by maybe like game 4 or 5, right? When grades were checked again. Um, so fast forward, I'd see him in the gym, even let's say like 5 years ago, still had that same smile, still had that same demeanor, was out there balling up. He was driving for Pepsi. He was a driver. And then I came to find out that, he had his life taken away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to give one more. I was working at Richmond High. There was this young man. This young man didn't even make it past 17 or 18. Incredible, John. When I tell you incredible, like Richmond High is predominantly Latino high
Yeah.
school,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he was a young black male. And when I tell you that everybody loved this young man at Richmond High, bro, because he was just such a community oriented guy who just so happened to be a baller, played basketball, and was probably averaging like 24 points, bro.
Dang.
So senior year, he actually transferred to De Anza, which had a really great program,
Yeah.
like program where scouts are coming to see you because nobody was really going to Richmond,
No,
right? But
not for
his name,
basketball.
that's how good he was, though, that his name was being spread. So the coach at Deanta, who I know is an amazing community man too, Reginald Figs, um, he got the young man to go to Deanza. And I was excited, man. I remember he posted on his Instagram with his jersey and his DA. And I'm like, bro,
He decided to take his talents to DA.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was so excited because I was like, he's gonna flourish. This young man's gonna get a college offer. D1, bro.
Yeah.
He was probably like 6'2", still has some room to grow.
Dang.
Was
Yeah.
a little girthy, but was starting to get in shape because Reggie pushes his athletes. Went to a liquor store, get milk from his mom, and never made it back home.
Yeah.
Mistaken identity, most likely, or
Yeah.
or someone who was really envious of the
Or
opportunity that he probably had ahead of him.
yeah.
And these things keep happening, bro. This isn't just from, like when we were growing up. Richmond has changed quite a bit due to some levels of gentrification, but there are still areas in Richmond that still function that way, like they did when we were there too.
I think there's people as well that still function that way, which just has no that just have no business. Just
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't mean to tell anybody how to live, but a lot of times people are still functioning like it was back then when things are obviously changing and people are trying to change. you know. It's just it. I think I'm coming from a point where I'm kind of fed up with it, just because I'm so involved in the community, and
Yeah.
I see certain people just doing certain things, and I'm like, yo, you do understand, like, now we have like a whole bin that comes out that picks up garbage. You ain't got to throw it on, you ain't got to put it on every corner. Like,
Yeah.
this is a mental, psychological thing when people drive across or through our neighborhoods, just seeing this, and they're just not, it's a psychological thing. Like, if we
Yeah.
keep this maintained correctly, then Richmond will change, I promise.
Yeah.
um but yeah, it just comes, yeah, it's from a place of frustration,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then just because we've lived it, like, I had a friend that, it was for sure mistaken identity.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a mistaken identity, it was a mistaken car. Like, his car resembled the other person's car, and they got straight lit up, man. And a, you know a guy who just was a big, like, those big freaking dudes that are just like the friendliest
Yeah.
people in the
Biggest
room,
teddy bear.
the
Yeah.
biggest teddy
Yeah.
bear.
Yeah.
Just his life was taken away because of mistaken car
Yeah.
identity, which is ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
When you're talking about, who's the author that you talked about, that you
Take
just
not
know?
Han. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you first mentioned that in our previous episodes, one of our previous episodes, one of my boys, his nickname was Tick.
Mm.
And immediately when you said his full name, and then you reverted to saying just
Tick. Yeah.
Tick,
Mm-hmm.
it immediately was like, in my mind, I'm like, dang, man, like, my boy Tick, somebody who I grew up with, went to elementary school with, went to high school with. You probably even met him a few
Maybe.
times.
Maybe.
Um, Another just cool dude who was just a Richmond cat, ended up actually getting killed by the police.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
well in our 20s, like in our late 20s, maybe
Yeah.
even early 30s.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just somebody who I loved so much. Like, he was coming out with his clothing brand. I remember when I went to go
Mm.
cop his, like, my first set. I actually still, like, I'll never get rid of those sweats. Like,
Yeah.
that was a sweat fit. I went to go cop some, just, pulled up out the trunk kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we sat there. You know what day it was? It was one of the days where we went. Actually, you know what? You probably remember this. So it was one of the days where we went to go play football. So we were actually getting together. Our cousins were getting together to play football.
It's like a turkey bowl.
No, no.
No.
Remember, it was just like
Oh
random
yeah.
football
Yeah. Okay.
games.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm at Davis Park, can meet me up. And he was on the other side. So I went on the other side because he just didn't know where we were at. Um, was talking to him for like an hour, and then I finally came back, and he actually gave me a sweater that was too big.
Mm. Oh, I do remember that.
and
Oh my
then
God.
and then I think I gave it to your brother,
You
bro.
did give it to Andrew.
Yeah, I
Wow.
gave it to your brother. And then 2 weeks, like two weeks after,
I
to a month,
remember that.
that
That was during the
happens.
pandemic. That's when I was inviting you. So actually,
Yeah,
it wasn't our family. Well, I was bringing family together, but it was during that time frame, the pandemic, where there was nothing to do. So
we were
I
gonna go
kind of
play
started
football.
coordinating. Yeah, everybody was get together and play football, and I
Yeah,
do remember that. Wow, I didn't know
yeah.
that he had.
Cause he actually gave me. So I was like, yeah, give me a medium.
Yeah,
And then he was like, all right, cool. He handed it over, and I guess he mistakenly gave me like a
like
two
a X.
X or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that, or
I
XL.
remember.
And then I gave it to your brother.
Yeah,
So that was the last time I seen him. But we had a conversation, and I love that man so much. So when it happened, I just was like, bro, I was livid. I
yeah,
was hot.
yeah,
I was hot,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Like,
Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I was thinking about the young man, I guess I named him Jamarie, J Mac. And I got that call, bro. Like, I just broke down in tears, bro. And it
Yeah.
was tears of sadness. It was tears of anger. It was tears of frustration because, like you said, like, you just, it doesn't feel normal anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
Once upon, and I guess it never did, but
Yeah.
like, right, there was a time period where I can't speak for you, but for me, where it was like, damn, why? I mean, I know this stuff happens. It got to the point where I'm just glad it kind of didn't happen to me yet, or
Yeah.
wondering like, when is it gonna happen to me, right?
Yeah.
But you get to a point where it's like, when is this shit gonna stop? Like, why is it even still happening? Like, is it really that worth it? Like, you just took somebody's life away, and you possibly just took your own life away, because if you get incriminated for it and get caught for it, guess what? You're living 25 to life.
Yeah.
So like, what beef was really worth that? or whose life was taken away that you thought you had to take somebody else's away to honor that life. Guess what? Now all of these lives are gone.
Yeah.
Right. I met there's this really cool documentary. I think I'm forgetting who the director was, but black male director. It's like a short film.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see if I can find it on YouTube. And it's kind of like a community like ours. And there's this guy in a hoodie, and he's being chased by another guy in the hoodie. So you see the guy's face who's being chased, right? You see him, and he's like panicking. He's running as fast as he can, bro, to kind of expedite the short film. The guy who was chasing him grabs him, throws him on the ground, turns him around, and when the guy who you've been looking at the whole time looks up, it's himself.
So
Because it's symbolic that we're killing ourselves, bro.
yeah.
Like we're killing our brothers and sisters who grew up in the same poverty,
Yeah.
this same environment, through the same struggles. And I get it, right? Hurt people, but when do we stop hurting people? Right? Or realizing that in hurting somebody, it's not making you feel better.
No.
It's causing more pain that you're gonna have to live the rest of your life with.
Yeah.
You know, and so I know we wanted to touch on our upbringings, and that's a part of what, you know, kind of to circle back a little bit, makes these chapters of our lives that we're having the blessing to be able to
Mm-hmm.
enter into, right? I'm gonna use it as a physical book, right? We're turning those
Yeah.
pages because we know those other past pages, man, they're full of a lot of trauma, a lot of sadness, a lot of pain, a lot of loss, in addition to the beauties and the learnings, right? Because that it's been those like lights at the end of the tunnels that is why we are where we are, right? But there's been some dark ass tunnels that we've had to look very, very closely for that light. Um, and with where we are, I know we have wanted to dedicate our lives to making that light a little brighter for those that are going through some of those things. And that's the whole reason we're doing this podcast, right?
Right.
Because we know there's people out there who have had these same similar experiences and are struggling to find that light, are
Yeah.
struggling to see what 5, 10 years can look like for them. Like you said, we
Mm-hmm.
couldn't see that far,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe, just maybe, we can be some type of represented symbol for just somebody out there, especially a male of color, regardless of your age, but especially if you're a young man of color.
Especially because that's where
Especially.
it's at. You know, I deal with men of color that are between the ages of like 18 and 24, and I see them kind of walk in and walk out, and I'm always very intentional about saying hi a certain kind of way, right? Because when you approach somebody with sort of the way that I was approached back in the day by young, like older people, it's almost like I felt like they were trying to check you,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
what's up,
Oh, for
little
sure.
homie?
For sure.
What's up, little bro? Like,
Yeah. Or where you from?
why do I gotta
Yeah.
be a little
Yeah.
bro? Like, why
Yeah.
why can't you just come up to me and talk to me like a regular person, like you would anybody else,
Yeah.
right? And that's always been a thing, even within the Latin culture. Like, you always kind of seem to have to earn your right to have an opinion about something, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, everybody has an opinion about something. None more that some should be taken a little bit more seriously
Yeah.
due to experience, a lot of stuff like
Credibility.
that,
Yeah. Yeah.
credibility,
Yeah.
and I get
Expertise.
that
Yeah.
stuff. But how do you think that stuff is kind of earned and
Yeah.
gained, right? Like through past, very intentional conversations. So
Mm-hmm.
when I talk to these people and they respond to
Yeah.
me because I'm coming at them kind of correctly,
Yeah.
it's a lot of the same stories that we're talking about now.
Yeah.
You
Very
know what I
much.
mean?
Yep.
It's like this stuff is still so real and still going on,
Yeah.
and it's kind of funny because like I remember even going through a phase in my life where I would hear like younger people talk about these kind of things, and in my mind I'm like, man, you ain't went through
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now it's kind of
It's like it
like,
was some type of
bro,
competition.
yeah, like
Yeah.
what
Shit
what
ain't
are
to
we
be proud of.
what are we
Yeah.
competing about
Yeah.
here? Like,
Yeah.
this stuff is nothing to be
Yeah.
bragging about,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I say that is because, like, hopefully somebody who's hearing this, when they do hear it, they're not taking it as like they're not looking at us and judging us by the way that we look. Like,
Yeah.
bro, you ain't been through nothing. Just because I don't have a 2X sweater
Yeah. Yeah.
anymore or nothing like that
We used
doesn't
to.
mean that
We
I
used
didn't,
to.
right?
Yeah.
Just because like now I don't resort to even cussing or anything like
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that I never
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that my boys never packed a heater. Never
Yeah.
means that. It
Yeah.
didn't mean that like there was plans, things going on in my life that weren't contributing, like you said, to society or to people or to families or anything like that. We've been through that. The thing is that we have embraced it and we have turned a chapter,
Yeah.
and we have tried to align with what we feel now is contributing to everything that we love now,
Yeah.
which
That's
is
positive.
Richmond, and
Yeah.
for me, you know what I
Yeah,
mean,
for
which is
sure.
Richmond.
Yeah.
So going out now and being involved in the community is my way to pay Richmond back, because
Yep.
without the way that I grew up, obviously don't take this as a complaint. Everything that we
Yeah.
talked
Oh,
about
not at
is just
all.
what we went through,
Yeah.
and that's just the truth, point blank, period. um like without all that truth, like, man, I wouldn't be anywhere near the person that I want to be
Yeah.
eventually, because I'm not there yet,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, so embracing new chapters, turning the page, which is very, very important.
Yeah.
But tell me now, right? So what's the biggest challenge in embracing like these new chapters now that you've turned a few pages?
Yeah, so there's a few different things that I feel like are challenging, and so let me see. I'm gonna try to write them down in real time. So I think the first one that's coming to mind is that of being able to look back and wishing that I knew what I back then what I know now. Right?
Of
I
course,
always say
yeah.
that. I'm just like, man, if I had this like insight, awareness, educational knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
personal kind of knowledge, bro, I would have been killing the game back then. And by killing the
Mm,
game, I just mean like I would have been so much more intentional with all of my decisions, who I was
right,
surrounding myself with, what events I was or was not going to, who I was or was not talking to, and how I was navigating all aspects of life, educationally, personally, even romantically,
right,
right?
right, yeah.
And it's just like, dang, why do you have to live life to learn things? Why can't you just learn them right as you,
Ooh, it was,
right?
yeah.
So looking back and just being like, dang, I wish I knew what I know now when I was 20, when I was 18, 25, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
age may be, right? And yet still knowing that because I didn't know those things back then is what makes it so much powerful for me to know what I know now, right? So it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like that bittersweet experience. I said number two, knowing that people are going to legit tell you you've changed, and you just
Oh,
having
yeah.
to let them know that yeah,
Yeah,
because I'm
yeah.
supposed to change,
Of
right?
course.
There's this very beautiful post that I've seen. It's this caterpillar and a butterfly, and they're in a table, just like us, and the caterpillar tells the butterfly, like, you've changed. And the butterfly responds, yeah, because we're supposed to.
Right.
Right? Like straight, like very simple, right? Because
Yeah.
we're supposed to change.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, right, a butterfly symbolizes beauty, right? Can
Yeah.
fly, has the wings,
Rebirth.
rebirth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the caterpillar is the beginning stage,
Yeah.
right? But so many people get so comfortable in that stage that they're so afraid to go through whatever change that is gonna lead them to become that butterfly,
Right.
right? I think honestly, the caterpillar, then the cocoon, and the butterfly. That's actually one of the most beautiful kind of like transformations
Absolutely.
when you really
Yeah.
think about it, right? Because you're
Cause
literally like in the cocoon, like you're not doing
yeah.
nothing, right?
Cause
Like, well,
listen,
you're not doing nothing, right?
some people stay in that cocoon.
Yeah, well,
Some
that's
people
true, and
get
then they don't want to get
comfortable.
out of that, right?
Yeah. Some
Uh-huh.
people don't want to sort of face the whole reality of the actual change. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they're so embedded with working on themselves that they forget that, okay, that's the important part of the phase, but emphasis on the word phase.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. And so I think what's coming up to mind is just that change is beautiful,
Yeah.
and I do acknowledge and recognize that change is hard, right? I get that
Mm,
part.
mm,
Yet it is necessary in
yeah.
order to become that next kind of like version of yourself, right? Kind of bringing it back to something that I know my LBs might like, and some of my fraternal brothers who are big into anime, like with Dragon Ball Z, right? As Goku or Vegeta, like they're going through that transformation, like you can see the physical like exertion that it is requiring, right? They're like
Yeah.
screaming at the top of their lungs, like
Yeah.
with each stage they're trying to reach, right?
Yeah.
Because that shit sometimes does hurt. Like it hurts to
That's
get
great.
to that powerful stage, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people like don't want to express or let out what that pain is because in a way it's like now using another animal you have to shed your skin like a snake. You got
Yeah.
to shed it,
Hmm.
right? But again, that's that skin you've been rocking, you've been wearing.
Mm,
Maybe you had some success in that skin,
right.
but it's like there's caps though, and we talked about that with the fix and the growth mindset, right?
Hmm.
So until you shed that skin, you're going to continue to cap yourself right then and there,
And
not
then
realizing how much more beautiful or powerful you can become.
using that as in a more scientific sense, snakes, they shed their skin because they've outgrown it.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
So that's a beautiful way of putting that as well. And with the anime version, the anime thing, I mentioned it last time when Goku first turned into the Super Saiyan
Hmm.
and Planet
That it
Namek
took
against
like all
Frieza.
these episodes.
So
Yeah.
it took like a month and a half to get through, and it was like, yeah, the planet's gonna explode in 5 minutes, and those
Yeah.
5 minutes were a month and a half long. If you are a true Dragon Ball enthusiast like I am, I grew up with it,
Yeah.
with Dragon Ball and Z, then
Yeah.
GT, and then now Super. Um, Back then, and this is going to be a bit relevant, and I'm a bit of a stretch, but back then, in order for you to tap into your Super Saiyan or that inner power, you had to tap into everything, all the hurt and stuff
Yes.
like that.
Yeah.
So that's
Hmm.
actually how they would
Yeah.
tap it in. And then it changed into something else, just like any anime fan knows. Like they'll always add some new things
Yeah.
to it. But back then, it was tapping into the hurt and frustration and anger.
And think about it, right? Oftentimes they reach that level of saying because there was something that was happening that they needed
Right.
to attend to kind of either save the world, save their
Mm-hmm.
families, or save themselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, because normally they weren't Saiyans, right? They were just chilling,
Yeah.
right? And so it was kind of out of necessity to become that. And then,
Right.
like you said, as shows kind of expand and see that there's so much popularity around like that version of the character, they're
The
going to see how
ads.
often they can kind of get them to that stage, right?
Right.
With
Yeah.
maybe minor things. But in the beginning stages, like you said, the world was going to explode in 5 minutes,
Yeah.
right? So like
Krillin
that's
had just
pretty
died.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But one thing that I really like that you said was uh, the change is beautiful thing.
yeah,
Like I think I'm at that phase now, at the chapter in my life now, where I'm trying to sort of finally figuring out or really realizing the fact that um, I'm okay. I'm
yeah,
fine. Everything that I went through when it comes to not having a
yeah,
dad,
yep,
when it comes to figuring out like different tactics, as setting your mind up as a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset and everything. I'm kind of reaping it now, man.
yeah,
There's a lot of growth yet to be had. I mentioned it in a previous episode that I'm in the dating scene
yeah,
right now,
yep,
so
yep,
like I'm
yep.
trying
We've
to
talked about that.
trying to work into whatever that feels and looks like seriously
Yeah.
now.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, man, and I'm really good in a beautiful place in my life right now, and I'm so thankful for everything that I've gone through. Thankful
Yeah,
for all those who've contributed in my life.
yeah,
Even just those unsung heroes that I don't mention a whole lot, but that mean a lot to me. One person that comes in mind right now, just immediately, is my boy who he doesn't ever come around, like because he's just kind of apartado.
hmm,
You know what I mean? But I also play soccer with him a lot, and like he's often like he lives in Ohio now. But he's often
mm,
hitting me up, like just making sure that I'm okay,
yeah,
making sure that I'm
yeah,
good. And I don't know if like he knows this, but like it means so much to me to get these small things. Like when you send things, like
yeah,
those small things for me
yeah.
are fuel for days.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I
Yeah.
agree. And I think the last thing I'll share, just to be mindful of time too, is one of the challenging things within change and new chapters is knowing that as you're closing that previous chapter, there might be some characters that you really thought were going to continue to be main characters, and by characters I mean people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, that aren't going to
All right.
come with you this next chapter.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to the concept of you may have outgrown them,
Yeah.
right? And you will have to mourn that as well, and because it's normal to mourn, right? I don't think anybody should be like, I don't care about them. No, you
No.
cared about them, right? And that's
Absolutely.
fine, and everything had its place in its time. But for some people, for some reason, just show you in some way or another that they're not going to be the most positive or healthy or contributing individuals into this next stage that you're moving into,
Yeah.
right? And that's not to say that we're expecting everybody to be perfect and uplifting and empowering, and yet there are certain behaviors that you're just like, I just can't have that in my life though.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love you, and honestly, like I've come to share this a lot in some messages that I have on TikTok. I think one of the biggest signs of love is knowing when to let go of somebody,
Yeah.
right? Because if I continue to
Definitely.
keep them in my life, they see how I'm moving. They see I'm allowing them to kind of continue to be maybe this unhealthy, not best version of themselves. Indirectly, I'm basically saying it's cool that you like that.
Enabling, right?
And yeah,
Yeah.
right. It's cool that you like that, and I'm gonna keep being there for you. Even, and mind you, right? I'm talking about people who I've like had conversations with, like we've
Yeah.
had hearts to hearts with. I've given them recommendations. I've let them stay in my house. Like I'm talking about people who I have gone above and beyond the bat for,
Yeah.
right? But there's a clear indication that they're just not ready to be in my life.
Yeah.
And I think we far so often look at that in like romantic kind of relationships, but that's
No.
in friendships and families too,
Yeah.
right? And I will still love you, and I'm gonna still pray for you and think about you because some of these people actually follow me on social media
Mhm.
and they know who they are, right?
Right.
But I
There's no
love
need.
you and I miss the hell out of you. I just need you to get to where you need to get to because I'm trying to really be the best version of myself.
Yeah.
And I pray that you can get to where you need to get to so we can maybe do that shit together, right?
Yeah.
But until then, I'm gonna keep praying for you. You can keep following me. I'm gonna keep following you, and I'm gonna keep praying for you because you have that in you, right?
Hmm.
But right now, in these beginning pages of this chapter, you're not in it,
Yeah.
and that's okay. Maybe you'll surprise me, and maybe we'll surprise each other, and you'll be in it later, because that's the
Absolutely.
thing too.
Because like here's the reality of it. Like life isn't so much like Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
Life is more like freaking Game of Thrones,
Mm.
where main characters get killed off all the time.
Bro, yeah, I ain't watched Game of Thrones. I like it was like a love hate because you can lose your favorite character in the next episode.
That's really how it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
And it doesn't mean killing them off in a literal sense,
yeah.
right? With like, with talking about like,
Like the
like
violent. Yeah,
us and
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
We're talking about sometimes like, characters need to exit stage
Yep,
left,
yep.
for a lot of reasons. It could be their own personal reason, right?
Yeah,
And you have to
yeah.
be okay with that too. Like
Mm-hmm.
when somebody is important in your life that you don't necessarily want to let go, you
Yeah,
kind of got to be like, I see where you're going with this, man. I'll support you
yeah.
from afar.
Yep,
Just know that I'm here
yep,
and that, if you need me, I'll be here.
yep.
Um, and then some just really just need to just,
Yeah,
off with their head kind of thing.
yeah,
Even though it hurts. But,
yeah, yeah,
but all in all, man, like I think that life is always going to be difficult.
yeah,
Life is always going to be full of changes, and embracing how whatever like in my faith, whatever God is putting in your path,
yeah,
right? Like getting a
yeah,
general understanding, having the ability and wherewithal to step back sometimes and be like, let me just really figure out what's going on here right now before I make my next move. Let's make the next move the best move,
yeah.
and uh, a lot of our upbringing has lended to that,
Hell
right? Because a
yeah,
lot of
hell
times
yeah,
you can't immediately do something without thinking about it. I can't go to North Richmond with my Central hat
yeah,
without thinking
yep,
about it,
yep,
because when
yep.
I did, it ended up landing me in front of like some fools that really wanted to
Yeah, for
like
sure,
not
for
let me
sure, for
pass
sure.
pass through at a stop sign.
Yeah,
I was literally stuck at a stop sign, y'all, because
yeah,
of the hat.
yeah,
The boys were like, "Bro, are you dumb?" And I'm like,
yeah,
"What are you talking about?" Like,
yeah,
so life will literally stop you sometimes
yeah,
if you don't think things through.
yeah,
Um, and that's the form of embracing, right? Like, let me just embrace the situation real quick, boop, and take the
yeah,
hat off, and
yeah,
and then we can move forward and never do that again.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, man, I think I look at the past as fuel for the future. You know what I mean? A lot of my tattoos are actually very symbolic to different moments that were very monumental in my life. And so I literally wear my past on me as a way to remind me of where I've been and contribute to where I want to go.
Hmm.
And I'm just really thankful, like I said, with where I'm at because now, whereas a lot of my tattoos were a little bit more trauma based, just to be quite frank, my most recent art has been a lot more um, centered around who I'm becoming and who I want to be. Some of my most recent pieces, just very quickly, I got the elephant, which is a symbol of protection,
Hmm.
a symbol of just like growth. And I know my grandma, my mom loved the elephant. I
My
know,
grandmother's as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I got the elephant on my hand. I got half Buddha, half wolf.
Okay.
Right, the Buddha is a really big part of again my spiritual beliefs, system, practices and it's really tied to like peace, tranquility, and being present, right? But then the wolf is also just that sign of like I still need to be a dog though. Like I can be
Yeah.
peaceful, but I still need to have that dog in me to keep moving forward,
Hmm.
right? And not that dog in like a violent way, right? I'm not trying to
No.
like bite anybody,
Yeah.
it's more like for me, like and right, wolves oftentimes represent like a leader of a pack,
Yeah.
right? Although not all of them are leaders, but I view myself as a leader,
Sure
a
you
leader of
are.
my community, a
Yeah.
leader of my family, a leader of the school that I work at. And so I think that's just, symbolic towards that. And then another piece that I have is the name of my daughter is Lilo and Imelda that I have right here. Um, And I mean, that's the most positive thing that I could ever have tattooed on my body, right? The names of my daughters. And so it's beautiful that a part of change, it's not just internal, because there's a lot of internal change that occurs, but it can also be physical too. And you can see it, which,
Yeah,
and then and you being able to see it, then you can feel it even that much more.
I feel you, brother. I
Yeah.
feel you, man. No better way to end that
Yeah. I
an
appreciate
episode
you.
than with that, man.
Yeah, but just shout out to everybody that's been watching, man. It was really
Yeah.
cool. What was your friend's name, if you don't mind naming them? Who I had the pleasure, the beautiful pleasure of meeting them on Saturday, during my birthday.
Oh,
Me and my grandmother,
Lindsay.
Lindsay.
Linz, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's yeah. So she was just there.
Yeah, at the plank.
Yeah, she's always been a strong supporter and just a good, kind soul. Somebody who also is really community centric, especially with
Mm,
her church.
yeah,
And I want to just commend her and tip my hat to how she handles a lot of the support that she gives to her friends. Like she
yeah,
is a very strong person, and she was in full acknowledgement of the podcast that day,
yeah, yeah.
and she's a great supporter, man.
It was wild. We probably exchanged like two sentences, and those two sentences, I was like, "That's an amazing person right there."
She definitely is.
Like if she didn't have her company, I would have been like, "Yo, come hang out with us." And I probably still should have, but I guess I was like, "Well, let me." I don't know how long they're planning to be here.
Right.
But those are the type of people that I love that you have a chance to surround yourself with in this stage of
Yes.
your life. And hopefully, Lindsay, I'll be able in another shared space, and we'll be able to chop it up some more. But
Definitely blessed too.
again, just shout out to everybody that's watching our podcast. Please engage in any way, shape, or form. We're here to learn from our audience as well. Like,
Yes.
or give us some topics that you think would be really cool for us to cover from our point of views, and we'll do the best that we can with it. But yeah,
No.
brother, I appreciate you, man. I love you.
Thank you, bro. Love you too, man. We out.